Hey folks, it's Tom. So this is going to be a video on how to make a Windows domain controller out of a Linux box. If that doesn't interest you, feel free to click a different video. I'm mostly just putting this out here for reference so that other people can see how to do it. Just because there's not enough of these types of videos out there, I don't think, and this is how I do it. There's other ways to do it. You can use Fedora with pre-compiled packages, and you can do all kinds of ways. But this is how I do it, and I'm just going to show you the way I do it. I'm going to be using Rocky Linux, so there'll be a link down below. If you use Rocky Linux, go make a donation and send them a few bucks. If you use Samba, go make a donation and send them a few dollars. These projects basically operate on a shoestring budget. A lot of people volunteer their time to make these things happen, and we need to donate when we use them. So basically, we'll get to it here. I have this script file. There'll be a link to this down below. It's not a script file. It's basically a text file with all the different commands that I'm going to use to do this. I just keep one of these updated so that I have it for the common things I do in Linux. Just makes things simpler than trying to refigure it out all the time. So basically, we're going to do this in VMware Workstation Player. We're just going to create a virtual machine, and we're going to install Linux on it, and then we'll get started. So basically, I'm just going to go up here to Home, say Create. I'm going to pull my disk image off my desktop, which is right here. We're going to pull that and click Next, and Linux is going to be, we're just going to go with CentOS 8. That's the closest thing to Rocky. And we're going to call this Rocky 8.6 AD1 for Active Directory 1. And we'll say next. We're going to go ahead and make this just like 40 gigabytes. I think 20 is actually plenty for this, but what the heck. We're just going to store it as a single file. We're going to customize the hardware a little bit. We're going to pump this up to 4 gigs for at least while we're compiling and doing things. And we'll go ahead and pump this up to, say, 4 of my 8 cores. And that should be good enough. So we can finish this now. And we can go ahead and power this machine on. And we'll go ahead and boot it here. And let this guy boot up, and then we'll be back when it gets to the main screen. Okay, so here we are at the main install screen, finally booted up. We're going to go ahead and click continue here. And basically we want to get it connected to the network first because it needs that to go download all of its latest packages. And we'll go ahead and we'll set up the installation partition. It's just going to go to this 40 gig drive. We're done with that. And we'll go ahead and set a root password. And now we'll go ahead, we'll make a user here. Say done with that. And now we got to confirm our software selection, which we just want the server with GUI. That's all we want. Click done. And we'll begin the installation. And now we're just going to let it go out here and configure and download and install everything. And then we'll be back when this is done. Alright, so the installation is complete, and now we're just going to go ahead and click reboot system, and then we'll be back once it comes up. Alright, so now we got to go here. It came back up. We have to go here and accept the license information. We have to click done, and then we can click finish. And then it's going to have us log in. And so we'll click here, we'll log it in. And it's going to come up with a couple of like screens that we have to click on here. Just a second. We have to say next, next, don't spy on me, next. And we can click skip and start using. And we can close that. So I want to see if I can make this any bigger. I think I can. If I drag this out. Yeah, it'll make it bigger. Okay, and so now we're going to just, now that we've rebooted and we're in here, we're ready to start walking through our list of stuff that we have to do. We're going to go click over here on this activities thing. Actually, before we even do that, we have to set up a static IP on the server. So we're going to click this little down arrow and then click this little wrench thing here. And then we're going to come here to network. And we're going to look and see what our IP address is, what range it gave us behind the VMware NAT. And it gave us 192.168.134.132. So what I want to do is now go to IPv4, select manual, and oh crap. Okay, a little technical difficulty there. Okay, so now we're gonna go in here and give it a 192. I gotta go see what it was again. Hang on, 134. Okay, so we're gonna give it a 192.168.134, and we're gonna give it a .10. And then the net mask is going to be 24 bits long. You can just type in 24, or you can type in the whole 255.255.255.0 if you want to. It'll take either one. And we're going to give this one a 134.2 because that is the gateway address in VMware. I'm just going to give it Google's public DNS server, and we're going to say apply. Now we're going to turn the adapter off and then click here to turn it back on. Then we'll hit configure again and we'll make sure it has changed to those values. So now it has. We'll go ahead and close that, and we will come here, open up a terminal window. I'm going to go ahead and make this window bigger, and we're going to go ahead and do an edit preferences, and we're going to set our font to something bigger so you guys can see it better. We'll set it to 18. There we go. And so now we're going to do an SU. This will give us root privileges. We'll put in our root password that we set, if I can remember it. There we go. And now I'm just going to go ahead and start going through my document. So the first thing we had to do is set a static IP on the server. We did that. Now we're going to set the host name. I'm going to call it this 81. It's going to be in the domain test.com. You cannot use .local here. It will mess things up and not work right. And so we set that, and now I'm going to edit my host file. And in my host file, I use VI to edit. You can use Nano or Pico. If you don't know how to use VI, just go Google it. Yeah, there's lots of tutorials out there on how to use VI. So basically, I want to put in my IP address and my server, and I want to do a tab here and do 81, and a tab and do 81.test.com. Okay. Yeah, it might be a good idea not to use something like test.com, because test.com might be a real website out there somewhere that somebody will need to get to, and then they won't be able to get to it. So try to make up a domain that doesn't actually exist on the real internet. But this is just a test server, so we're not too worried about that. And then we added that line to the bottom. So now we want to back up our old config files. So we'll go out there and we'll paste that. And this just backs up the Samba and the KRB5 comp that's out there now. We probably will not ever need those. I like to rename things instead of delete them. It's just me. Okay. And so now that we've done that, we need to download our Samba. This is the latest version that's out there. You can run, pretty much any version you want to, but I'm just going to put the latest one on that's out there today under the stable builds. We'll let that download. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and untar that. Maybe there. And now I'm going to go ahead and change to that directory. And now I got to install some packages before I can compile this guy. So the first thing we're going to do is the extra packages for Enterprise Linux release. We're going to install that repository. Okay, now we're going to do a yum update because a lot of times that needs updated. Actually, we're going to do a DNF, which is Danfield's yum. They're the same. They do the same thing. It's just that Danfield's yum's written in a new language, and it's supposed to be more faster and efficient and better. And I'm sure they'll deprecate yum eventually. And so, just going to do an update. I guess I could have done a -y update. Yep, and there is an update out there for it. Yes, we're going to install it. Okay. The -y on your DNF just tells it not to stop and ask those yes questions. It just does it. And now we're going to enable the Power Tools repo. So we'll paste that. So now I'm just going to do a DNF repo list. I don't think this command's in the instructions, but just you can see here's the extra packages for Enterprise Linux repositories, and then we have the Power Tools repository, which we're going to need for our next step, which is to install all of this stuff here. Undo. Okay. I just want to copy it, not cut it. We're going to paste it. And it is going to install a crap load of stuff because it's got to install all these and then all their supporting packages and everything else. We'll let it go through here and install everything. This is where having just a smidge faster internet would come in handy. I only have a 35 meg connection. That was really fast compared to back in the day, but today you can get a gigabit connection. So, but I'm not paying that kind of money. I get my internet for $16 a month. I'm grandfathered in at that price, and I'm staying at it as long as I possibly can. GCC is a big one. I'll install all the pearls, GNU utils, installing all the good stuff. Okay, so now that we've done that, we'll go ahead and check for updates one more time. It shouldn't have any, just to make sure everything's up to date, and it is. And so now we're ready to do our configure, which that's wrong. It should just be /configure. Copy that. We'll paste that down here. And now it's just going to go through here and it's going to do the configure. If you get any errors here, you're probably missing one of those modules. Probably one of those modules didn't install. It took me a long time of going through here repeatedly to work all that whole list of modules out that I had to install. And they're not always direct. Like it might say it's missing one thing, but that thing's actually included in some other package, and you have to go Google around and find it. But hopefully, if you're following these instructions step by step, you'll have everything you need, at least for this version of Samba. They might come up with something else in a newer version or whatever. We'll just have to see. But we're going to let this cook, and then I will be back when this finishes. Alright, so we've done our configure. Now, the configure part of compiling a program is basically it's going out and checking that you have everything you need installed and ready to go to actually do the configuration, actually do the compilation. Next, we're going to do the make command. And you can type just make. Here in the notes, I have make-j2. That'll tell it to use 2 threads for processing. I'm going to go and make-j4, hopefully speed it up, because I did give this guy 4 CPU cores, so we should be able to run a J4. Hopefully that'll help it go a lot faster. So this is probably still going to take a few minutes, so just sit back and relax and let it compile. You'll see some errors, some warnings coming up in here. Just ignore the warnings. The warnings are fine. You only have to worry about like errors if it stops. And I did successfully get through the configure on this a few times, and then have problems during the make process and had to install a few more things. So I put all those things on the list, so hopefully you won't have any problems, and this will just go ahead and compile for you pretty quickly. If it doesn't, you'll just have to kind of Google the error messages, find the module that's missing, and get that installed. It's looking like this isn't going to take too long here. We're at 748 or 748, and now it should go through and do some other things. Yep. And it's going to probably wrap it up here pretty quick, I think. We'll see. Oh, no, it's got to do 4,380 more things. So we'll be back when this is done cooking. Alright, so now our make has configured successfully. So now we have to install the actual software. And we do that with a make. And I'm going to do again J4. And we go ahead and do a install here. And this is going to actually put the software in all the correct directories on the server. So we'll do that. And we'll let this cook, and we'll be back once it's finished. Okay, so our software is installed. We have Samba installed now. So now we're ready to get to some configuration. And we can go ahead first and set up our path. Now what we're going to do is this command right here is going to set the path in the environment that we're in right now. Then we're going to update 2 things that will update it when you log in to a terminal session so that you'll have the correct path. But right now we're just going to do this. And this basically tells it how to get to those Samba files we just installed, right? And then we're going to do, we're going to VI a couple of things here. So we're going to VI these 2 bash profiles. The tilde means your home directory, right? So this, we're SU to root, so that'll take us to root's home directory. So we're going to update the root home directory, and then we're going to update the one for my login, my local user, which is Tom. And this just means go back one directory, which will be the Tom directory. If I do a pwd here, it'll show me I'm in Tom Samba. So when I switch out of Samba, I'll go to Tom. So dot dot takes you back one directory, a slash, and then dot bash profile is the name of the file. So we're going to do a vi tilde slash dot bash underscore profile. Okay, and you can see this one actually already has the export path at the bottom, so we don't actually have to copy that part. We just need to copy this. And so we're just going to basically come here and overwrite that. We're going to do an insert, and you can't really use the mouse with VI. You got to use the arrow keys. So we'll come here, we'll delete that, and then we'll just do a right click and a paste, and we'll put that in. And that will update our path for this guy. I'm going to do an escape, colon, right, and quit. And now I'm going to update my personal user, my user Tom one. And this one doesn't have any path in it right now. So we're going to add one. I to insert, enter. We'll come down here and we'll put both of these lines in this one. And we'll do an escape, colon, right, and quit. Okay, and so now we're ready to go ahead and make our actual domain. We're going to provision our domain with Samba. We're going to use this command called Samba tool with all these different options. But before we do that, we want to make sure the interface names are correct. So we're going to run ifconfig and make sure what interface our IP address is on. These can change around a little bit in VMware sometimes, so you want to check this. So you just do ifconfig, and then you're going to see right here is my 192.168.134.10, and that interface is ENS 160. That interface will be different for like all the different systems you're on. It'll change that interface name around. So just make sure that's the same. If you don't do that, then before you start Samba, you're going to need to edit your Samba config file and change that. So let's make sure I got the whole thing here. Okay. It's a big long command. I'll copy that. We'll come here, we're going to paste it. We're going to hit enter. So test.com, it picked that up from my resolve.config. It's going to be our realm. My domain name is going to be test. It's going to be a domain controller. You could also make it a standalone server. You can make it a member server. This is going to be a domain controller. And we're going to use the internal Samba DNS. You can use the binds or the bind files and stuff, but we're just going to do the Samba internal. And we're going to forward everything. So basically, this is going to become our DNS server. And everything on the network is going to ask it, like, do you know where AD1 is? And it'll say, yes, this is its IP address. And then it'll say, do you know where www.google is? It'll say, no, I'm going to forward that out to this other DNS server and find out for you. So that's why it's forwarding to 8.8.8, which is Google's public DNS server. You could also use the DNS server of your IP provider, or, you know, if you have DNS forwarding on your router, you can use your router IP, you know, whatever you want to use, as long as it can resolve stuff. And then we're going to put in an administrator password. And it's just going to take it a little bit here. It shouldn't take too long. And now we have an Active Directory domain built. And so now we're going to edit our resolve config under Etsy. So we're going to do a vi/etsy/resolve.conf. And we're going to come down here and we're going to change this name server to be the IP address of our actual server, our server that we're working on right now. So we'll just hit I to go to insert mode. We'll backspace that out. It's like 192.168.134.10. Then we'll hit escape, type a colon, do I write and I quit. Okay, so we've edited our resolve.conf for now. And so now we're ready to go ahead and start up the Samba server. And we do that just by typing Samba. And so now our Samba server is started. And so now we're going to set that service up so that it can start automatically. Well, actually, let's go ahead and check we have a few other things to do. First, we need to make sure that right now we can actually ping something outside the network because our resolve config is going to the server itself. So ping google.com, and we can. So we know the DNS forwarding is working right, and we could also do ping www.81.test.com, and it comes back with our server name. So that's all good. So now we're going to check. First we're going to copy our Kerbosis config file here over to the spot. You remember we renamed that file earlier. Now we're going to copy this updated one over to there. And now we're going to go ahead and just try these commands here, just to make sure that it sees all these records in DNS like it's supposed to. And it has a server record. We're good there. And we'll check this. This is the Kerbosis. That first record is for LDAP. This is for Kerbosis. And these would be set up on your Windows domain controller as well, or your Windows DNS server in your domain to tell it how to get to the domain controller. Where did I leave that out? Hang on. Okay, there. Well, we're going to do, this is just going to check the A record, which we're pretty sure exists because we already pinged it, but we'll do it anyway. Yep, it's all good. So now we're going to go ahead and set this up to start automatically. Now, you can do, there is a system control thing in the newer versions of CentOS that you normally start and stop services with, and you can make a service file and you have to put in this unit thing and all this other stuff. I don't know how that works. So I just still do it the old-fashioned way, which is the way I've been doing it since like CentOS 5. But you're more than welcome to read about the system control and how to build that file and start it up as a service if you want to. If you install it from the packages, it will start as a service. But since we compiled it, it doesn't make a service file. So we're just going to start it up the old-fashioned way, just because that's how I know how to do it. So that's how I do it. And so basically I like to do this through a script, and I usually make a folder off of my root called scripts, and that's where I put all my little customized scripts at on a Linux server. It's just me, but you can put this file anywhere you want, but that's where I'm going to put it. Now I'm going to touch scripts, and I'm going to make one called smb service.sh. And I just want to make sure my notes are right before I just go through all this. Okay, so I created the blank file. Now I'm going to change mod that. I'm just going to do a 777. So that's basically saying give read, write, and execute to the user, the group, and anyone else. Okay, and that's fine. I really just need to make it executable, but we'll just do a 777 on this file. Okay. The problem is it could give another user on the system the rights to delete that file, but that's only if they're a real Linux user. This is going to be a server, right? And it's going to be Windows clients, and they're only going to be able to see what Samba allows them to see. So they're not going to see these files, so it's fine. And why does this keep messing up? Yeah. Okay. And then we want to to add these lines to the SMB service script file that we just created. So now we're going to do vi /scripts / SMB service, and then we're going to hit I to insert. We're going to right click, we're going to paste, we're going to escape. I'm going to do colon right quit, escape, colon right quit. There we go. And now we want to go and add this into the rc.local to actually make it start. So we're going to vi this rcd.rc.local. And we're going to come down to the very bottom of this file. We're going to hit insert, and we're going to tell it to run /scripts /smb service.sh. Escape, colon, right quit. And that's all in the file as well. And now we got to add the execute permission to that file. In this case, I'm not going to change it to a 777. I'm just going to add the execute permission to it, and we're set. That's what the +X does, adds the execute permission. Okay. So now that is going to get us working. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and shut the server down and bring it back up and make sure the Samba service is still running. So we'll go ahead and do a shutdown now -R, and we'll let this guy reboot. I will be back when it is done rebooting. Maybe. Okay, so it's rebooted. I've reopened the terminal, and I've come in here, I've read su to root, and we're ready to continue. So the first thing I want to do is this ps-ax command, and this is going to list all the services, and then grep is going to pick out all the services that have the word Samba in them. All the lines with the word Samba is going to display those to us. So we do ps /ax pipe grep Samba. And then we can see it's running a whole bunch of different services named Samba. That means it has started up. That's good news. And so now we're ready. Basically, we've logged back into the terminal. We've su to root. Now we're ready to install a DHCP server. So we really wouldn't have to do this. We could just give our test workstation a static IP, but I want to show you guys how to do this because you're setting up a server for network. You're going to want to hand out the IP addresses from the server so it can hand out some additional information about the domain, namely this DNS, the domain name and domain search options. You can manually go and put those in on the workstations, but it's best just to set this up so that it hands it out automatically. So basically, it's going to hand out a range of 50 to 100. This is the router. This is the subnet mask. This is the domain name server, or you can put multiple ones there. Test.com is the names of the domain. It's going to give it a default lease time of 600 seconds. And a max lease time of 7,200. So that's what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and get this installed. We're going to basically run this command right here, this dnf-y install DHCP server. And we'll let that install. Now that has installed. Oh. So now we're ready to edit the DHCP conf. So I'm just going to copy this, the vi command here. And basically we're going to insert I for insert mode. Come down here, hit enter. And we're going to come back here. And we are going to grab all of this stuff right here from default down to this bottom brace. We're going to put that in here. Now you'll need to change this. If your network's 192.168.1, you'll have to change that. If it's 10.1.1.1, you'll have to change that, right? to match your network ranges and everything. And then you'll also have to turn DHCP off on your router or whatever's handing it out now and let this server hand them out. Okay, so we're good there. We'll go ahead and hit escape, right quick. And that's pretty much all there is to that. I think we just have to do a start. Yeah, so we have to do system control, start, DHCPD. Oh, we exited with an error code. Oh no. Well, we'll do system, DL, status, DHCPD. And it looks like it didn't like my arguments in my configuration file for some reason. So let's go back and let's edit that configuration file and just take a look at it. See where I messed it up at. I got a default lease time. These all have semicolons. This should have an open brace. This should be our range. Semicolon, option router, semicolon, 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 close brace. That looks correct to me. These are all commented out. Just make sure I got all this formatted right. I believe I do. I believe there's supposed to be a space there. Open brace, close brace. So there's braces around all these. We have a range. Oh, I got the wrong subnet here. This should be 134. That's why. It's saying, hey, there ain't no adapter with that on it. Go ahead and hit insert again. Oh, hit the insert button. There, and then it switches to replace, as you can see right down here. You hit the insert button again. And then we can just go down through here and type 134, 134, 134, 134. That should be everything. Okay, so now we'll do an escape right quick. Now let's try to start it. It started. And now we're going to go ahead and enable that service so that it starts every time the machine starts. Boom. Okay. So, just be aware that you're going to have to change that to match your network. So now you can if you know Firewall D and you want to do your Firewall D-CMDs and put all these mappings and port numbers in them, go for it. I don't like Firewall D. I like IP tables. I've been using IP tables since like 2005. So I just get rid of Firewall D and run IP tables. So basically I'm going to do a system CTL stop Firewall D, and then we're going to mask it. That way it won't start automatically. So we're going to do a system control mask Firewall D, and I'm going to go ahead and install IP tables. So this will be DNF -y install IP tables -services. Okay, and so now let me pull this up. I think we just have to go ahead and edit. Yeah, we just have to go ahead and edit the sysconfig IP tables file. So etc sysconfig IP tables. And basically, we want to come down here to where we start to see rejects. So we see like it's going to accept all this, -j accept, -j accept, and here we have a -j reject. So anything that's not accepted up here gets rejected down here. So I'm going to hit I to insert. I'm going to just put a couple lines in there, and then we'll come back over here, and I should have all the firewall rules here. Now again, where this says 211, this is actually going to have to be 134. Apparently I set this up last time and it gave me a 211 network, maybe, I don't know. Okay, And so this is basically saying the source is going to be from this IP network. It's going to check the state of the packet, and the state needs to be new. It's going to do multiple ports, and the D ports are these ports. These are all of the TCP and UDP ports that you need to have open to successfully join a machine to the domain and use that domain. It's a lot of ports, but it's necessary. And you could just say, all the ports, I'm just going to leave the firewall disabled. And that's not necessarily a wrong thing to do, but I like to block off as much as I can. So I'm going to do that. And then we'll just delete these back up. And so now we have that. This also allows DNS and DHCP access in these. Your 88 is your Cabosis, your 53 is your DNS, 123 is your NTP. So you have all that stuff all wrapped up in here. So we'll hit escape, we'll do a colon, right quit. And now we're just going to restart IP tables. Oh, system control. And if I could type today, I would be set. There we go. So now we have the IP tables running that help secure things and yet allow enough stuff through so that we can use it as a domain controller. Next thing we're going to do is set up a couple of shares on this guy just because we need some shares. So basically this is really pretty simple. We're going to make a directory. We're going to make a users directory. I'm just going to make them off the root. In production environment, you're going to put these on a separate volume on the server, like a separate RAID array with a separate volume, probably not include them on your OS partition. I'm just throwing them out here just because this is a test server. So slash, you always want to check your space too, like do df-h and see where you have space available. So root has 36 gigs available, right? So I'm making this off of the root. But you wouldn't want to go and make this off of another partition that doesn't have very much space, right? So that's something. And when you make another volume and mount it and go through all that, which that could be a separate video, but then you can make them there. So I'm going to make them off of root. And I'm going to change mod that guy to be this is going to change it. So you're going to say I'm going to change the owner of the file, or I'm sorry, change it. That's chown. Change the owner of the file to root, and the group is going to be 3 million. I don't know why they call it that, but that's what Samba makes their group. So that's what it is. And we'll do /users. And if I type it users, okay. And then we also want to do a change mod. We're going to do -r. You don't really have to do -r because there's no other folders under it. That stands for recursive. But we're basically going to give full rights to root, full rights to the Samba, no rights to anybody else. That's what 7, 7, and 0 mean. And so there's that. And now we're going to do the same thing again, but we're just going to do share. And you can do chown second or first. You can reverse those. It doesn't matter. So now we have those two things set up. Now we want to edit our Samba config file. And it does not put it under the etc Samba config like it does with the packages. It's in a different place because we compiled it, and this is the place it will be. And so now we just want to come down here. We're going to put in insert mode. And basically, we just come down here. We do a open brace. We do users, a close brace. We go down. We do a tab path equals /users. read only equals no. And then we'll do another share path equals /share. Read only equals no. And so basically we will escape right quit, and now we have those all set up. And you don't have to restart Samba for that to take effect, believe it or not. It just it rereads the file or whatever, and it puts them right out there. So those shares will show up to a workstation now. And so with that, I believe we have successfully covered how to create a domain controller. Now, here's a question I often get, which is I have a www web server inside my network, or I have a mail server, I have something else I need to create a record for inside my network. So say you have a Cisco router that doesn't support that redirect thing based on the mapping, and you have a web server sitting inside your network, and people outside can hit it through a port mapping, and your Cisco router does not redirect that back through like a lot of routers will, and you have to do a split DNS, so you have to do a www record for your domain name, right? This is how you do it right here. And you can go out and read on Samba's website all the Samba tools, all the DNS stuff that you can do. You can add all kinds of records. You can add reverse lookup records, pointer records, server records, C names, quadruple A records. You can add it all. But I'm just doing this one as an example to show you. We'll paste that. You have to do this -u-administrator, or it picks up your Linux name of com in this case, which you don't want to do. Maybe, oh, hang on. I got to change that IP address to 134. There we go. And now we'll put in, this is the domain administrator password that we set up. And if I type my password right, administrator, okay, yeah. There we go, okay. And so now I can do a ping www.test.com, and of course it's not going to ping it. Oh, that's going out to the real internet. Oh crap, hang on. Well, I don't know. Let me look at the resolve.config. Yeah, that got changed back somehow. Huh. That's interesting. I haven't seen that before. Or did I change it? I'm pretty sure I changed this. Let's change that back. I guess if that happens, better check. Now let's try it. There we go. Now it's working. So somehow my resolve config changed back. I wonder, that could be when I rebooted. It went in there and picked this one back up. Because we changed the resolve.config, but we did not change the configuration our network, and it still has that there. So we probably need to change this right here to 192.168.134.10. Hit apply. Take that off. back on, because it said that that was set by Network Manager. And we can still ping outside. Okay, so we'll add that at the end of this to double check the resolve.config and change the IP in the network manager. So I'll put some notes on the bottom of this file for that. But other than that, we should be all set. And so what we're going to do in the next video is actually fire up a Windows virtual machine, and we're going to start connecting to this. We're going to set some file permissions. We're going to set up some users and some groups. And I'm going to show you how all that works and how you can use the Windows tools to manage the Linux server. You can do this all from the command line, create groups and users and all that kind of stuff. There's Samba tool commands for that. But you can just load the GUI utility on the Windows workstation and do everything from there. Nice and point and click. And you don't really ever have to worry about this thing again. So until next time, I hope this helps some people. You can use other distros that have those packages compiled for an AD. Fedora is one of them that does. But this is just how I do it. And so hopefully this will help somebody else that might want to do this similar thing. I'll talk to y'all later.